I'm going to be honest. Most watch collections are pretty mediocre. And this isn't to put anyone down, but I think many of us can do a lot better. A large part of this is how we go about it and our lack of imagination with collecting. We buy a bunch of watches without much thought, and then in a year or two, end up with a bloated collection of random pieces that lack cohesion, intent, and frankly on many occasions, quality. So today, I'm discussing the reasons why most watch collections stay mediocre, the mistakes we made to get there, and methods you can use to elevate your collection and experience with the hobby overall. But first, what does it even mean to have a great collection? I'm sure we can all agree that it's highly personal. The best collection for you is one that is best suited to your tastes and preferences, one that makes you the happiest it can. So by extension, we can say that a mediocre collection is one that isn't true to those preferences, or is in some way lacking in emotion or intent for your enjoyment. This is why I think the most common mistake collectors make is buying too many watches too fast. It's really the crux of the trend towards mediocrity in collecting. It's happened to pretty much all of us. We get into watches and become obsessed with them. We start reading forums, watching tons of videos, and seeing all of these cool watches we want to buy. And often, we end up buying a ton of them. I totally get it. The psyche of discovering a new hobby is thrilling, but the issue with buying watches so quickly is that you haven't given yourself the time to actually develop those individual tastes and preferences that makes the collection yours and unique. Actually owning and wearing a watch is what impacts your priorities and what you value the most. Doing this takes time, and as that happens, those priorities and preferences evolve naturally and change. This is another reason why frequent purchasing is detrimental to collection quality. You're buying a ton of what you like now, but you're not taking your future shifting preferences into account. Who knows if you even like that brand or watch in a few months? Especially near the start of your collecting journey, you have no way of knowing besides having patience. And I'd argue that you're much better off letting that happen instead of getting yet another Seiko diver or Chinese homage piece. Instead, a great tactic is sitting on the decision to buy a watch for quite a while, maybe even 6 months. If after waiting that set period, you're still obsessed with the watch and really want it, go ahead and buy it if you have the funds. This alone will increase the quality of your collection so much, because you're only buying the watches you love and not the fads and fleeting interests you have. You're being as true to what you like as much as possible. And of course, it has a side benefit of filtering out tons of watches and saving you money too. I think you'd be surprised how often the must-have watches stop feeling so must-have when you let the initial excitement wear off. In the same respect, if there's a watch you truly love, a grail maybe, and you find it to be a little out of your budget, going for an alternative budget version can be a costly mistake. Of course, this is going to depend on the price difference in your financial situation, but I would always advise someone to save a little longer and get what they truly want instead of settling on something they think will scratch the itch. Because often, it's not going to be the same, and you're going to be back to wanting that grail again, but now, down the cost of the alternative you bought, wondering if you should sell it. As collectors, I think we should be trying as much as possible to keep our watches indefinitely if we can, and to not buy watches we intend to sell. Obviously, it's a better financial decision, but it's really about the core principle of a great collection, staying true to what we love. Saving a little longer will make the watch all the more satisfying to have once you do get it, and in many ways, would tell you a lot about what truly matters to you for your collection. The next big mistake that's keeping your collection mediocre is not subscribing to this channel and watching the weekly videos I upload that analyze deeper topics in watches and introduce you to more obscure brands and pieces. But seriously, this is unironically an actual mistake collectors make, staying in their comfort zone and not exposing themselves to watches and brands they don't know about. Think about how often you see collections with mostly stainless steel sports watches all the same style and around the same price, usually from more popular brands. You don't know what you don't know. And chances are, there's a brand or watch out there that you'd really connect with if you just had heard about it. I imagine it a bit like someone who only eats chicken nuggets their whole life. You can do that if you want, chicken nuggets are good. But how do you know you wouldn't really love sushi, or any other food for that matter? You're not going to like everything, but the more you expose yourself to, the more you'll learn that there's other stuff out there that you really love. Even beyond that, the mere exposure effect says you'll develop and evolve your tastes as you do this. You'll begin to appreciate watches that are out of your comfort zone more, and in the end, you'll have a more fulfilling experience with collecting and watches as a whole. And as much as I love a shameless self-promotion, it doesn't have to be this channel either. There are so many creators, forums, and other avenues around to learn about obscure or uncommon watches. You're missing out by not reading or taking part in them. Take the time to expose yourself to as many brands, designs, complications, and price ranges as you can. My only caveat is that you should be mindful of it. Understand that almost everyone is trying to sell you something or sway you in some way. Learning about a watch doesn't mean you have to buy it. Consume content with a critical eye and get the info you need out of it. In that same respect, collecting with intent is really important. But what do I mean by intent? Spend a little time every once in a while to reflect over what you really value and enjoy in watches, and what you'd like to see for your collection in the future. It sounds a little silly, but I think this is genuinely helpful. Tell me, have you ever seen a post on a watch forum to the effect of, "Here's my collection, what should I get next?" Or, "What am I missing?" If these people understood what they wanted and what their goals for collecting were, they'd never ask this sort of question. They'd know exactly what gaps they had and where they'd want to go next. It won't be for everyone, but collecting to a theme can be a productive framework to adhere to. Having a restriction not only creates bounds, but it necessitates creativity and deliberate decisions about what you want. Here are a few of my favorite examples. Collecting only one watch per brand. I personally adhere to this. It really forces you to distill a brand's core values and specialities into a single great watch for each. Having a wide variety. The idea is that every watch you own does something new from the others. A different size, color, complication, price, etc. You end up with a collection where everything feels completely different, and you have every base possible covered. A cohesive aesthetic. Space, military, or automotive history, for example. And there's so many more. Following a theme makes the gaps in your collection and what you want incredibly clear, because it follows a set goal or idea. Of course, this isn't necessary. You can buy whatever you like and not think much into it. But I think the best and most fulfilling collections are ones that achieve a higher goal besides just aimless buying. It can be a sort of metagame, if you will. My final tip is when you're doing that reflection, make sure to consider the wearing and owning experience of the watches you want. Many of us lust after watches we'd love to own because of how cool they are. The grail. But sometimes having the dream is better than actually living it. We almost always see watches through the lens of how they're portrayed and advertised, and not through the experience of owning it. For example, you hear constantly about how awesome perpetual calendars are, and they really are a marvel. But how often have you heard that they cost several $1,000s to service because of their complexity, or how easy certain movements can be to damage? Or how often have you seen promotional material on watches showing it being worn from the side to display the thickness? Product shots are nearly always from the front on, and many times the wearing experience isn't obvious until you actually try it on or see it in person. And sometimes a watch just doesn't fit our lifestyle. A dress watch isn't suitable for certain rugged environments, and neither is the opposite true. Sometimes we buy a watch without thinking about when we actually wear the thing, which ties in a ton with patience and being intentional. Albring 2 is a small Austrian microbrand that specializes in customizable high horology and in-house calibers for a competitive price. I could go over any of their watches, but I think their Chronofelix is probably best suited for the obscure reference for this discussion. The reason being is that the Chronofelix really isn't just one watch, but a family of watches that have many different variations and features you can request from the brand. And as the name suggests, the Chronofelix is a monopusher chronograph, but it can be anything from a regular chrono to a perpetual calendar or a field watch. The field watch version in particular is interesting because it doesn't have a running seconds hand, so it has a top second indicator. This complication flashes a red dot and the whole of the 9 on the dial every 2.5 seconds, indicating that the watch is still running. An incredibly unique feature only a few watches even have in the first place. Of course, you can get these in a variety of dial colors, layouts, and hand types too. It's a watch you'd never have heard of if you didn't do the research or go through the effort of seeking out new pieces. They aren't mainstream, hardly anyone has heard of them, but in exchange, you're able to work directly with the watchmaker to get exactly what you want. A significant portion of their work and finishing is done by hand, and you're getting a true piece of craftsmanship with a connection to those who made it. A great watch collection really is highly personal and subjective, but we should all strive to be true to what we love, and to find out exactly what that is. Even when we've settled into a comfort zone, there's always new frontiers to learn about and new brands to become obsessed with. I think if we all try to find that perfect watch for each of us and continue to do that within creative frameworks, we can make the hobby of collecting a lot more fulfilling for everyone involved. But that's just my opinion. What do you think makes a good or bad collection? If there even is such a thing. And if you like this discussion on collecting, make sure to watch my video discussing if watch collecting is even a hobby at all. I break down where many of us go wrong, how consumerism ties in with collecting, and what makes it such a great activity in the first place. Thank you for taking the time to watch.